So Virgo, your September 2025 forecast is going to see a solar eclipse in your sign. It's also going to see Mercury rejoin you on the 2nd and is going to merge beautifully with the Sun in Virgo exactly on the 13th with a Mercury cazimi. If there is something that just seems to have been in suspended animation, particularly from the end of June, and that has left you feeling uncertain and unsure, I do feel you can gain some traction this month, particularly when Venus joins up with the Sun on the 19th. Ironically, Venus, although she is going to be in a very muted, quiet and psychological part of your scope, which could see you thinking very deeply about relationships, perhaps even one from the past, Venus forges a beautiful link with the Sun through the first 3 weeks. You also have a great link between the Sun and Jupiter, the planet of fortune, in your sector of friendship, which also provides a backdrop for the first 2 weeks. So there's a lot to like, but of course, Saturn inverses back into your 7th house of relationships, of connections on the first day, and he's going to be going through that part of your situation through to the middle of February next year. It suggests, because Saturn takes 29.5 years to go through his entire cycle, it suggests if you go back to the beginning of that period, or perhaps back in slots of 7 years, that there may be something around a relationship which will require some work between now and the middle of February. It doesn't mean to say a relationship will end. For example, with Venus in your 12th house, in a very nostalgic link with the Sun in your sign, you may start to look at an old relationship, an old flame, in a new way. But of course, you will have changed since that time. They will have changed as well. But equally, Virgo, if you have been in a relationship and come into September in a relationship that's not working so well, I feel that this is going to be an intriguing month. Because the two eclipses go across the polarity of what you need to do for you and how you need to connect to others. And with Mars, the planet of passion, in the part of your scope to do with your values and self-worth, right through to the 22nd, if it's money or a lack of respect or a lack of validation in a particular relationship, what Jupiter and Venus can do in a way is encourage you to believe that you can thrive without a bad relationship in your life, whether that's with a line manager, whether it's with a sibling, whether it's with who used to be a friend but it's now become a little bit edgy, cool and distant, because that's what Saturn in the 7th house can do. But it's intriguing because Uranus goes retrograde on the 6th, suggesting that right through to the end of the first week of November, you may find yourself much more actively thinking about what you do for a living. If you have been thinking about a change, Uranus has been a very provocative factor. And if you are a Virgo who tends to represent the archetype of liking a great degree of order and metronomic patterns, maybe Uranus has actually been quite challenging. But it's Pluto, that I feel is really at the heart of perhaps a yearning to reform what you do for a living, what you eat, what you drink, how you look after your personal welfare, because Pluto full-time in Aquarius in your 6th house since the 19th of November last year, and he's going to be there for a long time. So things are changing around those structures. Even things that have been very comforting, like a well-worn pair of slippers for a long time, may start to lose their allure. But that brings us to the lunar eclipse on the 7th of the month. You may find that someone who really cares about you just lets you know, perhaps even in a delicate diplomatic way, that they feel that you've been very singular-minded recently, and that's made it difficult for them to feel part of things. And the nudge comes from the North Node combining with the lunation, but also they're both linking back to the ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, in a part of your chart which suggests someone could be very genuinely well-meaning in trying to help you. But sometimes in life, of course, we do have to really stick to what we need to do for us, even if we feel people judge us, don't agree with us, or don't even understand us. And that all comes to a crystallization point, because through week 2, Mercury is speeding up in your sign, advancing towards the Sun, and they merge in a cazimi on the 13th. It's the 4th of the year. This is where your natural capacity for refinement, for seeing things that other people miss, your ability to meticulously look over information but also understand the value of it. But just towards the end of that week, it is true that Mercury does come into the opposition with Saturn, and that could also just accentuate a situation where someone's not quite getting how much you need to concentrate on your affairs, or it may be they've got a point that by being so self-contained, you're not being quite as inclusive as you could be. Now, Mercury moves into Libra on the 18th, catching up with Mars. That gives you an opportunity to think about resources, but I love the 19th because Venus in a beautiful semi-sextile with the Sun for the first 3 weeks, it's definitely got its benefits, particularly around nostalgia or thinking about those old people in your life, but it may also have seen you letting go of a relationship that hasn't worked. And Venus moving into your own sign can urge you to give yourself some kind of makeover. It will restore your confidence, it brings you into the moment, and don't be surprised if more than one person is beating the path to your celestial door over the following 25 days or so. But the 21st does see the one and only solar eclipse of the Virgo Pisces eclipse series that we've had, that started on the 18th of September last year. And it's a difficult one, to be honest, because it's in a direct opposition with Saturn, and it's pretty opposite Neptune. It's just Neptune is what's known as disassociate. So Neptune's still in Aries, it's not in Pisces, but they're still opposite. So here, this second new moon, technical new moon in your sign of this particular Virgo season, remember you had one right at the beginning when Virgo first received the Sun, and this one, a black moon, has that very tough opposition. So if there is a relationship where there has been somewhat of a power battle, I actually feel that Venus moving into your sign could give you the confidence to do what you feel you need to do with you. Now listen, no one's going to leave your world who's truly right for you. If you do decide to move on and start afresh, it will be because it's generally what you believe is the best thing to do. But Mars moving on the 22nd into Scorpio, it's very much about instant gratification and desire, Mars, particularly in the very magnetic, intense sign of Scorpio. But it also clashes immediately with Pluto, the higher octave ruler of the sign. So you could have a very powerful conversation, even conflab, as this month comes to a close, because the autumnal equinox, which coincides with Mars moving into Scorpio, so we have a semi-sextile, is ushering in the Sun's arrival in Libra. That's very much about relationships, but it's about balance. And if you feel, particularly with Venus being in your 12th house for much of this month, and Saturn being in your 7th house, that one particular relationship, and as I say, it could be with an employer, it could be with someone who works for you, it may be a family member, a friend, or perhaps romantically. But if a relationship just seems very harsh, cool, attritional, tense, there's not a lot of give and take, I feel by the end of this month you may want to assert, or if it doesn't happen straight away, you could assert over the next 6 months your desire for your independence. So there's a shake-up in the works for sure, but I feel that Venus moving into your sign is just going to remind you that in your own way, your gorgeousness, your value. I know it's technically in its full in your sign, but I think it's critically Saturn in your 7th house, together with the solar eclipse, which really provides the backdrop energy for September, but also through the next 5 months into the early part of next year. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. Please also check out my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your free natal chart with a stunning free interpretation. Enjoy my wonderful 3 free card tarot, or sign up for your free daily horoscope fired to your device each day.